70% of all transformations fail. I think many companies stumble in their transformation journey because they're trying to improve customer experience by just using plaster. Don't be too gung-ho or brave to open it up, on day one with your customers, because then you could be in for a big shock.
And they could be in for a big shot as well.
Yeah.
Hey listeners, welcome to CX Unlocked. I'm Jonathan, your host for this third episode. Today it's my honor to welcome a CX professional with 26 years of experience across customer service setup, management, and optimization. He's currently the Director of Customer Experience and Retail at M1. Welcome, Stamford Low.
Thank you, Jonathan. It's a real pleasure to be here speaking to you and to the audience.
Thank you, Stamford, for accepting my invite. Very happy to have you for this episode. And we will discuss today the importance of CX, as well as the digital transformation that M1 went through. For those that are curious to know a bit more about Stamford, stay until the end of the podcast, because he will answer some quick-fire questions for me. Are you ready, Stamford?
Fire away.
Great. So I looked at your profile, and while I was preparing for this chat, I discovered some interesting facts. It seems that you, very early in your career, you joined M1. Then you went to explore new ground before coming back to M1. So you are what we call a boomerang employee.
That's right. I had the opportunity to work for M1 in the second year of its operations back in 1998, if I remember correctly. And back then I was hired to run the main hotline, 1627. And during the 5 years that I was there, I had the opportunity to grow that team. It was in a growth phase back then. We were signing up 20,000 customers every month.
Wow.
So it was very challenging. And over that 5 years, I had the opportunity to then grow that team to then take on from general inquiry to billing to provisioning and even win back and retention. So, and then I left to, as you said, do other things and learn other things. And about 9 years ago, Karen, our back then CEO, asked me whether I was interested to come back and join the team. And it looked like a good opportunity. Plus the fact that I was getting a little bit tired of all the traveling in my regional role before that.
Oh, I see. So back to the source, like we say. And I know that you're also a big fan of customer journey mapping, but also of the Lean Six Sigma approach. So I think it's something that you drove quite well when you came back to M1, and that you can share a bit more with us later.
Sure.
All right. So to start this podcast, this episode today, we wanted to talk about the importance of customer experience. You definitely are someone that we want to listen to. Hear from your experience. And my first question for you would be, do you think that customer experience is increasingly becoming a cornerstone for the business success today?
Yeah. So Jonathan, I think that's an excellent question. But I think the listeners know the answer to that.
Yeah, cheat a little bit.
Yeah, but it's okay. But as usual, I'll throw a bit of a curveball to that to make things a little bit more interesting. So, of course, customer experience is so important in today's world, right? In particular, where products, services are more or less commoditized, what can differentiate your service versus another, your competitors? Really, you need to leverage on CX to try and provide that differentiation. Having said that, when I first received your invite to this podcast, I so happened to be holidaying in Japan.
Oh, nice.
And yeah, nice. Nice weather, springtime, so lovely at that time of the year. And I was with my wife, and she dragged me out 10 a.m. in the morning to join a very long queue at a boutique,
Okay.
of course. And we were in the queue for 2 hours.
Oh,
And I would say that this brand that we were queuing for, it's a high-end brand.
yeah, I can imagine.
And during that 2 hours, we were standing. There was, in a way, no choice but to just wait there and to be served. Finally, after 2 hours, we went in, and of course, my wife knew what she wanted, asked whether it was available, and the short answer was, "I'm sorry, ma'am, in the whole of Japan, that is sold out."
Oh my gosh.
So, so again, the takeaway I had is it was quite interesting. As I said, at that time when you were just asking me to join this podcast and on this topic of CX, I was just thinking, what CX was there in my journey in that iBuy experience? And and the thought occurred to me that when you have a product and service that is highly in demand, more than what the supply can provide, the CX matter much. I don't know, honestly.
Yeah.
Because I certainly didn't feel like I received any good experience.
For sure.
But because the thing that my wife wanted was in such high demand, we had no choice but to follow the queue.
Yeah.
So again, I think coming back down to earth, I think in the area that M1 is in, certainly CX is of utmost importance. Yeah.
I love your answer. And thank you very much for this example, because sometimes we forget that we are ready to do a lot of things to get what we want, because it's difficult to get it, as you said, but we would not do those things in other circumstances. But yeah, I can imagine that when it comes to M1, for example, it's more of a commodities. And having said that, when I was researching, inviting you, what I like to do is I type customer experience with M1. And I try the same with other brands, competitor of M1. And I could tell that's a lot of article talking about customer experience. So it's like what you do and what you talk about, whether it's internal, external, is visible. That's why I wanted to share. So definitely happy to hear your answer on that, because I know all the efforts that you're putting in.
Yep.
So in your view, what company should prioritize then when it comes to improving the customer experience? Because it's a big topic and it's not easy to find the right spot to start.
Yeah. So I think like in most things, I don't think I'm in a position to prescribe what would be important for your company. Because every company is different. The service, the products are different. The industry, the market conditions are going to be different. So I don't think there is a model answer. But what I can speak from M1's experience is we were very clear that in this transformation, we wanted to transform from a legacy brick and mortar telco to a digital telco. And for us, what digital telco basically means is being able to provide very personalized, bespoke service and products for our customers. We are trying to break away from the mold where, as you said, telco services are commoditized. Everyone has a phone, everyone has a service, you get the basic service. But how can we differentiate ourselves? Certainly, all our customers are individuals. We might be able to segment them into broad segments based on demographics, needs, and so on. But we felt that in order to fulfill our digital telco ambition, it meant going to a segment of one. And we could not do that with our legacy platform. And that's why we embarked on our digital transformation.
So how was the initial observation, just trying to put myself into your shoes when you're like, look, we know we have to transform. how do we decide how we're going to transform, how we're going to start? What maybe method of approach you use to have an idea about that?
So that was back in 2019. So I can speak with some experience. We had the benefit of employing Bain to consult for us.
Yeah.
And I remember at the kickoff meeting, they started by saying that 70% of all transformations fail. They do not achieve the objectives. And so I think what we kind of did right in order to achieve our transformation objectives is very clearly, number one, be very clear about what our ambition was or is. As I mentioned, we all knew that we had to transform because the market required us to transform, and we wanted to be a digital telco. I think we then went on to break that down, peel the onion, to see, okay, what are the various components that needed to be done? Journey mapping, providing frictionless customer journeys certainly is one of the streams that we had. But beyond that, it is also looking at what kind of retail footprint do we want to have. Back in 2019, less than 10% of our customers were buying online from us.
I see.
How do we see the future? How do we want to transform ourselves to enable us to sell more digitally? Because the reality is the audience or our potential customers are the youngest segment, not the older ones, right? So how do we attract them? How do we make sure they don't see us as the incumbent and the legacy? Especially back in 2019, we had many new competitors, what we call the MVMOs, those who only provide the branding, but they buy the service, the network of the telcos, right? They were all out there pitching SIM-only plans, which were much, much cheaper in terms of pricing. So how do we compete on that? So coming back to your question, I think having clear objectives, having the endpoint very well articulated, breaking it down into the various components to make it successful. And I think why we are successful 5 years down the road is because underpinning this whole transformation is not just the mindset change, but is also the IT technology platform change. I think many companies stumble in their transformation journey because they're trying to improve customer experience by just using plaster. You know, you have a small wound there, you try to plaster it. So it's mini fixes that you're trying to do. You cannot reorchestrate the entire journey to be frictionless end to end unless your IT platform changes.
Yeah, what we call the digital lipstick, right? It doesn't work. You have at some point to break and rebuild. I like that you use 2 times the word frictionless. In fact, our first episode was about frictionless customer experience for the podcast. Before we go a little bit deeper into what you have done in M1 with, of course, the rest of the team, I was just curious about what are some of your key metrics, KPI that you use to monitor customer experience?
So no surprise, because we had Bain consult for us, naturally we adopted Net Promoter Score. So NPS is one key metric that we use to measure at both at the transactional NPS as well as at the benchmark NPS across brands. Now, because I talked 2 times already, and now 3 times I'm mentioning the word frictionless, one way that we measure how successful in reorchestrating our journeys is in the customer effort score. So that's another metric that we use. At the operational level, Jonathan, we also looked at our data, and no surprise, I think, to my fellow contact center CX colleagues, that there was almost 100% correlation between first contact resolution and NPS. So at the operational level, because NPS is still what you would ask the customer after the fact.
Yes.
What operationally we did was to look at all our processes to see how we could resolve the customer's query request within one contact. And we drove that from the low 70s to 90%.
Wow, that's impressive.
And I think that with that, we were then able to improve on our NPS.
Makes sense. Great. We're going to talk a little bit more, in fact, about M1 and all the transformation that was done. Maybe just as a start, what was the project, if you can pinpoint one project, one specific project that you think had the most impact for you?
Sure. So the one that sticks in my mind in terms of evidence of our transformation is our chatbot, Mindy.
Yeah.
So back in 2019, we did not have live chat, and neither did we have any bots.
Yes.
We looked at the queries that were coming into customer service platform, and we saw that a significant percentage of it was actually simple queries. And, in a telco, not too hard to guess that billing queries, latest promotion and prices were some of the common queries that we were getting. How could we industrialize this? And I happened to come across this platform which provided the chatbot.
Yep.
And it was an interesting project for us because we never managed a bot before.
Yep.
And I remember my team and me having a discussion to say, okay, we've decided to go ahead and implement this. How can we make it successful? Because it's a new channel.
Yes.
We've never used that channel before. And one of my staff very cleverly said, well, we are quite good at managing agents' performance. We've got metrics, we got coaching, we got training, and all that ecosystem around it to enable our agents be successful at what they do.
Yes.
If we treated Mindy, the chatbot, as an agent, that might work.
That's a good concept.
So that's exactly what we did. So we intentionally set up Mindy within a team.
Yep.
We gave Mindy a name, Mindy. We gave Mindy a supervisor.
Yep.
We gave Mindy a trainer and so on. So we replicated everything. And in terms of performance metrics, Jonathan, we replicated almost everything that we had. So for managing agents, we have transaction monitoring. No surprise, we have transaction monitoring for Mindy as well.
Yeah.
And you know what that translates to is basically an accuracy score.
Yep.
So with Mindy, we were able to offload a significant volume of the chat traffic. That enabled us to provide live chat as a viable channel because 90% of the live chat was actually fronted and taken care of
by the chatbot.
First contact resolution by Mindy.
Yep.
Now, many people may say, well, that's not a difficult metric to achieve because you just need to program the flow so that it's difficult to get to a live chat agent, right? After you go through the chatbot. What I would say is this. Mindy has an NPS score. Remember, we treated Mindy as an agent. So Mindy has a transactional NPS score of only 20 points below that of our live chat agent. So that kind of told us that we were on the right track in terms of how we could leverage on technology. But more importantly, how we could harness the technology to make it work. Because quite often, we employ technology and we are not happy with the results. I would suggest that it's because we did not deploy it correctly.
No, in fact, many initial chatbot project failed. And I think that what we see sometimes brands don't know exactly what the chatbot will need to do. So in the time, technology was not as advanced of today. Now we see also evolution with generative AI.
That's right.
But back in 2019, when you started, I think it was different, the state of the technology. And really, if you don't know what to do, it can be a challenge with your bots to make your customer happy, basically. So I don't know if you have some stories of real challenge that you encounter with Mindy when you started, or things that you did not expect it and went wrong. I don't know if you can share.
Yeah, certainly. In our beta version of Mindy, which we set up and we tested with staff rather than customers, the way the Q&A was structured is you ask a question and Mindy was programmed to find the best match answer. So if a customer said something like, tell me about M1 data roaming, Mindy would look within its archive of articles and look for the article that best match that question and present that answer. That didn't work quite well.
Oh, okay.
Because the answer to a question like, tell me about M1 roaming, is probably a chapter within a book. It's a very long answer.
I see.
And when we had that beta result, we thought, well, wait a minute. Let's go back to what my very clever staff mentioned. Why don't we train Mindy to be more like an agent? And we asked ourselves, when a customer asks our agents, tell me about M1 roaming, the agent doesn't go into a single-sided monologue. Where, the answer is going to be 2 minutes long. What does the agent say? The agent actually tries to peel the question. Sir, M1 data roaming, may I know where you're going? Are you going for a week, a day, or a month? Are you going to be going back there frequently? So it was an interesting design pivot where we decided that we didn't want Mindy to be able to use best answer score, but instead on certain questions to actually ask more questions.
Like an advisor.
Like what an agent would do. And then only after you reach the end of, okay, now we've narrowed it down, Jonathan, you're a business person, you want to go to Japan for 1 week, right? And it's only one time. Mindy will then give you that specific recommendation.
It makes sense.
So that was one great learning. And again, I think if I can summarize that into 2 bits, it would be, I think that in much of the technology that we employ, it's good to look at it from how can it replicate what our agents do, or enable our agents to do that task better. That's one aspect. I think the second part of it is always beta it with your own staff first. Don't be too gung-ho or brave to open it up, on day one with your customers, because then you could be in for a big shock.
And they could be in for a big shot as well. All right. Really appreciate the example on Mindy. Very, very interesting. I learned something today. And just now we talk about not just doing a digital lipstick, like really how M1 approached the problem by relooking entirely at the technologies stack that you had in place. Like any company that have been here for a while, obviously you had some technology in place that were quite old and difficult to replace. So maybe you can share a bit more about the adoption of those new technology, how M1 took this project, and some of the challenges that were faced along the way.
Sure. So what most of the audience may not be aware of is in 2019, approximately 99% of our applications and system were all on-prem. And that's what we call the legacy platform.
Yeah.
Today, in 2024, 99% of the platform is on the cloud.
Wow. Okay.
So
That's
we
a
have
big shift.
truly shifted.
Yeah.
And that's one of the ingredients that allow us to be a digital telco. Now, that journey, I have to admit, had not been smooth sailing nor easy.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think you can appreciate it that in legacy, when you have things on-prem, you could customize it quite a fair bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
In the digital platform, in order to be faster to market and in order to leverage all the ISV's platform capabilities much faster, we decided early on to try and adopt as much out of the box as possible. From a business perspective, that was difficult.
I see.
Especially for customer service, because we had 20 over years of providing service based on very customized solutions.
Yeah.
So it was a challenge breaking away from that mold. But then on the flip side, it allowed us to be much more agile. And as I said, to be able to deploy new features much quicker.
Yeah.
I give you an example of what I mean. In the past, it would be maybe at best 3 or 4 software releases of our CRM or the application that the agents would use in a year.
Yeah.
In the digital platform, we have a new release every month.
Yeah. Wow.
But of course, the releases are much smaller.
Yes.
So you're going to get very small incremental changes. I'm just thinking back, we're now on release 30. And that incremental feature release really helps the frontliners because it's easier to adopt small changes rather than, big bang, here are the big changes and you have to adopt to it quickly. So that's one of the challenges that we had in implementing the new digital platform. I think one of the things that I do want to share with the listeners also is that, in the digital platform, we have many components, different components for different features. And I think the biggest challenge is how the business team together with the IT team work together to orchestrate those journeys end to end. That's a lot harder than you think.
Yes.
Because every product owner is quite siloed and wanting to only do the best for his or her product. But there are journeys that start before that and journeys that continue after that part.
Yep.
And how we orchestrate together required us to set up journey teams.
Yep.
So that we can make sure that the customer experience end to end makes sense.
And on that, do you have like specific IT team that are attached to the customer service team to support the business and make sure that in terms of technology, it's aligned with what the business wants and the journey mapping?
Definitely. So in the digital platform, we have adopted the Agile Way of Working. So we have set up product teams. What's interesting is that all the product team owners were all not from the IT side, but from the business side.
Okay.
And of course, within the product owner, you have the scrum master, the tech lead.
Yep.
Of course, the tech lead and the developers come from the IT team.
Yes.
But the other members of the product team largely came from the business.
Okay.
That is a significant pivot away from how we used to do development, where, as business gave requirements, IT takes it in, go away. A little while later, they come back and they say, here. And the business looks at it and, oh, that's not what I asked for. I think in the agile way of working, what we're finding the advantage is it's the business that drives the product.
Yep.
And we're getting what we want.
That's good. Very good approach. So with all this transformation, obviously you have your agents that are a center of everything, serving your customer, and they have to adapt, they have to adjust. So what are some of the skills that you see that the agents have to pick up along the way?
Yeah. So I think transformation for some people, they may view it as a threat. I give you an example. Again, I go back to Mindy.
Yeah.
When we first implemented Mindy and we wrote Mindy out, some of the agents told me, hey boss, does that mean that I'm going to go without a job? And I think back then we were already quite conscious and purposeful that Mindy was not implemented to get rid of jobs. Instead, it was there to help solve customer and business problems. For example, with Mindy, we needed fewer agents, which was a good thing because in Singapore, we could never hire enough agents. We were always short of agents.
Yep.
Now, because Mindy took away some of that workload, it meant that our customers had a shorter wait time.
Yep.
Agents, therefore, are less likely to encounter an unhappy customer because they waited a very long time. So they saw the benefit of that. I think the second thing that we did with our agents was we created new job roles. As I mentioned, in the agile way of working with the product owners, they came from the business side. So, and also in the Mindy setup, the supervisor for Mindy, the people who do transaction monitoring for Mindy, they came from the operational team. So their roles change to fit a new purpose. But still, I think it is a challenging time for agents. I think the agents that will leverage and be successful moving forward are the ones who are going to be able to learn how to use the new tools, the new platform successfully. And, it's always a work in progress. I think we also appreciate agents who are able to give constructive feedback. So this works for me. You designed it that other way, not working quite right. That's not the intent of the output that we want. How can we make it better? So I think that's how the agents' lives will certainly change.
So for all the agents that are listening to us today, don't be afraid of AI, new technology. It's an opportunity to pick up new skills and become an advocate in your company on what is working, what is not working. Great. So if we look back now from what was the technology in 2019, you embark on this transformation journey and the buzz and what is happening now in terms of technology. What do you foresee in terms of impact coming with the new technology for the customer experience?
So obviously the impact has already been felt. NPS has already gone up. Customer effort score has also reduced, which is a positive thing. But I think more importantly, for some of my staff, they see new meaning in the roles that they perform. Because it's not just operational work anymore. It is being a lot more involved in the business to drive real business outcome and ambition. So I think it's worked out pretty well. But I think from a technology perspective, because I think just now you couldn't help yourself but to slip in the Gen AI word.
Everybody talk about it, right?
Everyone's talking about it. I think it's an interesting new tool that is available at M1 and together with Keppel. We are piloting a number of programs that's testing the limits of the Gen AI. I think in the contact center area, the two obvious benefits of Gen AI is number one, what I call work summary. Agents spend so much time, right, trying to summarize that conversation between them and the customer. Wouldn't it be great if something was able to summarize it for you? The agent eyeballs it, happy with it, clicks on a button, bang, it gets recorded into the CRM. Right. So looking forward to that, how that can work. And of course, what I call agent assist. With Mindy taking a lot of the simple queries away. Average handle time has increased.
Of course.
The type of queries that an agent has to handle are much more complex than what they were in 2019. There is still turnover in agents. But even for our most senior agents, it is a challenge trying to remember all that stuff. Again, wouldn't it be great if there could be a tool, Gen AI, that could be listening in to the conversation and at the right time providing assistance, not to the customer, but to the agent. It's like having a mentor or buddy sitting next to you, right? And I think that's something that we've not yet implemented, but something that we are keen to explore.
No, I think it's definitely interesting. And I discussed with you separately a while ago. We were talking about the challenge of AI a few years ago. And now with the technology, one of the challenge was the languages, especially for the Asian market, because some of the big solution vendor come from US, so often are very US centric in terms of language and all of this. And we really have seen with the new generation of AI, like big adoption for the local language and for language that previously was not being recognized very well by the first AI model. So I think it's exciting because this promise was made already a few years ago, but if you are not in the US or you have a problem with accent, with language, it's difficult to execute. Now it's becoming approachable.
Indeed, Jonathan. I think we are quite early adopters of this Gen AI, in particular in our contact center voice channel. And indeed, being able to understand Singlish or the Singapore accent has been a challenge. For the time being, we have met that challenge by putting in an overwhelmingly amount of effort to get the model to learn. But in a way, that kind of goes against what I said we wanted to do, which was to use out of the box. So we're actually customizing the language model a fair bit. And that's not something that I think is sustainable. I'm happy that my supplier of that platform has, I think, announced or has told me that the Singapore language pack will be out in the second half of this year. So indeed, my team is looking forward to that so that we can take the that particular accuracy of recognition of the language much higher, and that would improve the CX a lot more.
Makes sense. I just want to close now on something that you opened with earlier. You were mentioning that when you started this digital transformation journey, only less than 20% of the interaction were online. So curious to know now where you stand and where you are aiming.
So I'm conscious that my competitors are also could be listening in. So I don't think I can give the exact numbers.
Yeah.
What I can say is this: online transaction has grown 10 times.
Wow. Okay.
So that's a big improvement.
Yeah.
I think we've also, but I think I would like to add that it did not come automatically. It was obviously through a lot of hard work.
Yeah.
I would also say that part of that success came about because of market conditions. Let me give you an example. Back in 2019, less than 10% of M1 customers were on digital bill, e-bill.
Yep.
So I don't know, you probably remember getting all your statements in the mail, right? Today, it's more than 90% e-bill.
Yeah.
So would I be able to claim that it was all through M1's effort that we reached that milestone? The answer is no. Obviously, part of it is our effort, but I think part of it is also the entire what's happening in the marketplace.
Yes.
I can't think of a service provider today that is not offering e-bill.
Yeah, of course.
So I think timing the features, timing the initiatives to leverage off what the market is ready for, so that you don't face too much of an uphill battle by being an early adopter, I think kind of makes sense to us. But on the flip side, I think, Jonathan, the contradiction is that on some other areas, like in the contact center voice bot, I think we are early adopters. And in that, it's something that my team felt that it was necessary to take the lead, because no one else was doing it the way that we wanted to do it. So we were prepared to put in the time and effort to do that. And in a way, the platform allows us to do that, because then we were able to do the development in-house as opposed to going out to a supplier to build for us. And that allowed us to be more agile. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Stanford. Thank you for all this sharing. Very interesting. At least for me, I took quite a few insight from this conversation. So now for our listeners that might want to know you a little bit better personally, I prepare a quick fire question for you.
All right.
So I hope you are okay. Just 5 questions. Try to answer as fast as you can, as honest as you can.
So and whatever comes top of mind.
Of course. So I'll start with what do you do to relax yourself?
So, okay. I'm actually an introvert.
I cannot see that.
I know. So I'm actually like a mouse at home. I'm nothing like what I am at work. And I think the way I kind of rationalize that is that it's already so tiring to be a leader at work. At home, I just want the other boss to take over, and I shall be the faithful spouse.
Good. So what's your go-to comfort food? Very serious one.
Very serious one. So I just past the age where I could withdraw from CPF. So that kind of tells you the generation I'm in.
Yeah.
And I don't know, somehow or another, as I get older, I'm more and more nostalgic. And one of the food that I remember eating as a child is the Crawford bak chor mee.
Okay.
And I know I saw a YouTube video recently on, these are the 2 brothers or cousins and they're fighting to see who's the best and so on. So that's one of the odd things where I don't mind queuing 1 hour at noontime for bak chor mee.
I need to try this with you then.
It's a date. I shall bring you one day.
Okay, let's do that. So when you go on vacation, are you more a city or a nature person? And I think I know the answer now after your
Why
first
don't you
question.
give the answer and then I'll tell you whether you're right or wrong.
As an introvert, I would say you're more of a nature person to relax.
Yes. So last year, so Japan seems to be the country that I've been visiting the most in the last few years. So last year, I did a 5-day simple walk on the Nakasendo Trail. And for listeners who don't know what I'm talking about, so that's the ancient road that linked Tokyo to Osaka.
Wow.
Now, don't get it wrong. I did not walk that
All the
whole
way.
thing. I only did 5 days. I think the end-to-end walk is something like 3 weeks,
Wow.
21 days. So I did sort of like the highlights.
Yeah.
So it was nice because there were some parts of that walk where there was no mobile signal. And it was nice being able to walk there and not meet anyone for like half a day. And that was nice.
I didn't know this one. I need to check it out. So are you more of an early bird or a night owl?
So again, another symptom of my age. I'm normally in bed by 10:30.
Oh, that's very healthy. Very good.
Yeah.
But I guess you wake up very early as well.
Yes. I still have school-going children. And so that means I have to do my duty of waking them up at 6 o'clock. So yeah, I'm up at 6. But my wife is constantly not happy that I'm sleeping so early because she's more of a night bird. But I think it works well. I'm told by my colleagues that as you age, actually you need less and less sleep.
Indeed.
So let's see whether that turns out to be true.
Hope you don't wake up too early for your wife after that.
I hope not to.
What's the one thing that you can't live without? And I will close up with this.
One thing I can't live without. So this is interesting question. One thing I can't live without. About 10 years ago, I think I had midlife crisis. As usual. Not as usual, but that's what they say, right? Every guy goes through. And I consciously went out to take my motorbike license.
Yeah.
So I got the base. So in Singapore, there are 3 levels. Yeah. So I went for the basic, the intermediate, and then the highest.
Yeah.
And the minute I passed that highest level, I went to buy my Ducati.
Wow.
So unfortunately, last year I had an accident.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. And well, yes, I think that's okay to say because my wife knows. So she hasn't banned me from the motorbike. So I had a mini accident, and while it was mini, somehow or another, the insurer decided that it was a write-off. They weren't willing to repair the bike.
Yeah.
And I was telling my wife, this is a sign. Maybe it's time to switch back to 4 wheels.
Yeah.
Right? And when I said that, for the next few nights, I couldn't sleep. And after a few nights, I told my wife, I think there's another sign. I think I need a bike. And true enough, after I said that, I went to put a deposit down for the new bike, and I've been sleeping very well.
Oh, great.
So I don't think I can live without my bike for now.
I need your help. I have my license, but I need to convince my wife.
You have to sign the contract. So with my wife, the contract is I'm not allowed to ride across the causeway. I can only ride in Singapore.
Good. Hey, thank you very much, Stanford. It was a pleasure to talk with you today. Thank you for all your sharing and the insights. And you are welcome in the future for a new episode. But do follow us as well with all the new episodes. Thanks again.
Thank you very much, Jonathan. I really enjoyed this talk with you. And I certainly hope that the listeners have benefited from it as well and learned something.
Thank you. Goodbye now.
Bye.